right. Let's see here. It looks like we are live. Let me share this to a few places. Let's see here. Give the family a chance to come on in. See if we can enjoy this share. Let's see. Let me share this to a few places. All right. Let's see. All right. As you come on in, do me a favor. Hit that like button and share this video, please. Do me a favor. Hit that like button and share the video as you come on in. Let's see if we can have us a healthy discussion about this topic. I think this is a pretty important topic. And I think oftentimes this is one of those things that gets overlooked. So, you see, Yardley Bond, my man at the bakery. You at the bakery right now, bruh? Well, every time I turn around, you making donuts, man. What's good with it? All right. Yardley faithful, always in the space. We share this out to a few places. Hold on one second. Let me see. And just give the good people a chance to come on in and join the conversation. And share that. Share it to a group. Let's see. Kevin Jackson, my man. What's good, brother? Good to see you, man. All right. Let's get this thing cracking. All right. Kevin, what city you in, brother? What city you in, man? Make sure, can y'all hear me pretty good? Does my mic sound nice? Yeah, Yardley making that dough always. Yeah, hey, do me a favor, man. As y'all come in, share this video for me, man. We need to get some wide dissemination. Knoxville, you know, I'll be up there next month. I think I got to pick up my next puppy for my kennel. I'll be in Nashville, right outside of Nashville. Matter of fact, see my lovely wife in the place. Was good, beautiful. Always with me. Yes, indeed. All right. So just give everybody just another probably 30 seconds or so to come on in and see if we can make this into a good, healthy conversation. Yeah. So let me see. All right. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. It's long enough. Those who will join us are here, and those who won't, I guess maybe they can catch the replay. So the topic was whether or not we should stay together for the children, and this was spawned by a topic that I made. I mean, a comment that I made on the His and Her Perspective show this past weekend. And can y'all hear me good enough? Am I close enough to my mic? Make sure y'all can hear me good. Make sure my mic sounds nice. Anyway, I made the comment on the show that that couples should fight for their marriage, particularly if children are involved, and that couples should stay together for the children. And you know, there was some disagreement, and so I was asked to kind of put together some information and get some statistics together and see if I could make a compelling argument that couples should stay together for the sake of the children, even despite their own unhappiness. And so a while ago, I came across this video by, what was her name? Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. It's a conversation between Nikki Giovanni and James, Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. So the video was from several decades ago because Nikki Giovanni was a young lady at the time. And she was arguing that we should stay together, and James Baldwin was saying no, we shouldn't. So Kevin says, "What kind of puppy you have?" So right now we have a Doberman farm, man. So we are just kind of putting all the pieces together for a Doberman farm. So to answer your question, yes, Doberman. We have European Doberman. Robert Lee says, "Never stay together because of the children. Most don't understand that the children know the home is unhappy." All right. I'm glad you said that. We're going to dig into that a little bit. He said, "Lie to me. I can't." So my premise is that we should stay together for the children. Now, hear me out for a second, because I think that there are some scenarios where we shouldn't stay together for the children. And I'm a product of one of those scenarios. Yarley says, "It would be nice if yours didn't include women, since they file for divorce 80% of the time." Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. They do. But I think that there are some things that we can do to counter that. Because I was facing a similar situation where my wife was ready to leave too. So, but I was a product of one of those scenarios where it was best that my mother left my father. So there are some scenarios where the environment is so toxic, and there's such a detriment to one of the persons that are married, both persons that are married, maybe even a detriment to the children. And so in my scenario, in my upbringing, my father, he was kind of a street guy. He liked to be in the street. He had some, company around us and around us as the children, me and my little brother, and even around my mother that, was very uncomfortable. I'll just summarize and say it that way. And unfortunately, one of those guys ended up killing my father right before my 12th birthday. So this was the type of company that he kept. So it was a very unsafe environment, not only for my mother, but also for us as children. So there are scenarios where I'm a proponent of divorcing despite having children. But there are some scenarios also that I think are worth staying together for the sake of the children. So one of the questions was asked, what about if we fall out of love? Like, what about my own personal happiness? That's a legitimate question, right? But I'm going to go over a few of the stats of what happens to children in children who are the product of divorce. And before I do that, I like to say that so as adults, we can fend for ourselves, right? Can't nobody make me unhappy. As much as I love my wife, she does not have the power to make me unhappy. Now, what she does have the power to do is affect my level of contentment, my level of joy or happiness with her. But as far as my overall life happiness, she cannot make me unhappy. That is my job, to maintain my happiness, even if that means reconciling in my mind that I might need to get away from her if she's that toxic of a person, or if the environment is so toxic that maybe we cussing each other out in front of the kids, or we fighting in front of the kids. You don't want to do that kind of stuff. But I say that if you can at least maintain something that looks like a friendship, that when I start reading these statistics, and you get to kind of get a look at what I'm talking about, I think you might maybe see things a little bit different. But the point I was making is, as adults, we can fend for ourselves, but children cannot. So you're talking about, and I'm not talking about a 17, 18-year-old, because they're old enough to begin kind of understanding some things about life. But, when we're talking about 3, 4, 5-year-old children, 7, 10-year-old children, it hits them very different. So let me start out by saying one of the biggest reasons that marriages fail is because most marriages are steeped in self-gratification, right? Most marriages are steeped in self-gratification. So we're more concerned with what's in it for me rather than something higher, something bigger than me. something bigger than us. And I think that might be okay as long as it's just the two of you. But once children become involved, then I think the marriage, the relationship is kind of anchored in something different. And that becomes bigger than you. But let me see. I got some stats that I jotted down here. So I want to touch on some of the risks I put together. So some of the risks are damage to the children and even damage to yourself, right? And I mentioned my own scenario, how it was healthier for my mother to leave my father and be a single parent of me and my little brother. That was a healthier scenario than the alternative, because my father had some dangerous company around. He kept some dangerous company, and that was just wasn't good for us. Let me see. The value of staying together. So statistically, we have much healthier outcomes, not only for the children, but also for ourselves. And so if we can kind of get past that point where we're not getting along so great, there are several statistical verifications that we live a healthier life, we live a longer life, we live a fuller life, and the list goes on. Our life expectancy goes up. And of course, I'm talking about environments where we're not abusive and toxic and dangerous to each other, right? And I help with that too. So come see me if you're having a problem with that. But let me say that, let me go down to some of these detriments to the children. So here's some of the statistics that I found. And these statistics have been around for a long time, man. These people have been keeping data on stuff like this for decades, right? Here's one that stuck out to me. Children are more likely to experience behavior issues when parents divorce when the child is between ages 7 and 14 years old. So I'll read it again. When a child is between ages 7 and 14 years old, children are more likely to experience behavior issues when the parents divorce. Here's another one. Children with divorced parents are twice as likely to drop out of high school. Now, I know that, many of us will say, well, I'll talk to my child and so on. But here's something to think about. When the emotions are involved, the facts don't matter. When we are emotionally charged and our emotions are high, our ability to reason is low. So I'm saying that to say, despite how logical you think you are and how well you think you can communicate with your child, there's something that takes place emotionally in them that when their parents divorce, it's really like tearing the child apart, because literally one half of them is going this way, which is mom, and the other half of them is going that way, which is dad. They are literally being torn apart, not necessarily from a physical sense, but an emotional sense. But I'm going to tap into also the physical implications, because there's also a physical impact on the children. Watch this. Children with divorced parents are more likely to get cancer. Statistics show that children with divorced parents are more likely to get cancer. These are things that are happening in our emotional life that manifest themselves in the physical, right? Disease. Here's another one. Children with divorced parents are twice as likely to attempt suicide. I'll read that again for those in the back. Children with divorced parents are twice as likely to attempt suicide. So now, again, we talk about the importance of our own happiness. And I have to ask, is there anything more important than what I feel in this moment as a 30, 40, 50 plus year old man, when I can fend for myself, in comparison to my 7, 10, 14-year-old child who's struggling to kind of figure things out, right? Let me jump into the comments real quick. Yardley says it would be nice if you're. No, you mentioned that already. Says a woman is only supposed to enhance your life, not be the focus. Wait. A woman is only supposed to enhance your life, not the focus of it. You are responsible for your own happiness, my man. That's what I'm talking about. Let me jump back in here to some of these stats. Oh, let me jump over here and make sure I ain't got no comments on the other page. Let me see. All right. Nobody saying anything, just listening in. All right, cool. So, jump back in, pull my stats back up. Where was I? Children with divorced parents are twice as likely to attempt suicide. Here's another one. Children with divorced parents are 4 times as likely to have social problems. What are some of these social problems? They're more likely to join gangs. They're more likely to engage in gun violence. They're more likely to experience teen pregnancy, all kinds of oftentimes they can even become socially awkward. Now, one reason that this is important is because ultimately we're talking about relationships, right? And I say this all the time, but sociologists and behavioral scientists have concluded that as much as 95%, listen to me good now, as much as 95% of our overall happiness can be attributed to how well we do in our intimate relationships, right? 95% of our overall happiness can be attributed to how well we do in our intimate relationships. This is important because if your child is potentially more suicidal, behavioral problems, social problems, potentially becoming more socially awkward, these things are all increasing their likelihood that they may not be able to experience healthy relationships as an adult. So let me before I go to that home point, let me go ahead and get a couple more of these in. Okay, 70% of prison inmates incarcerated on long-term sentences grew up in broken home families. These are statistics, right? You can confirm all these statistics. They're all over the place. Let me go back to another one. So 70% of prison inmates incarcerated on long-term sentences grew up in a broken home, family separation. Kevin says, depression for a man is critical to the whole family environment. Okay, let me touch on that for a second. First of all, let me say I agree with that. Depression is crucial, right? One thing that we don't talk about is in our community enough is mental health. It's taboo in a sense, and even to seek professional help, to seek help from a mental health professional, that's often frowned upon. Meanwhile, other communities, other ethnic or other demographics of people, it's much more commonplace for them to maintain their emotional and psychological stability with professional help. So this is something that we got to begin not only addressing more, but also getting the help that we need to maintain that. But one thing that's key about depression, and depression is very real. Let me say that depression is a very real thing. But most people don't know that depression can almost be narrowed down to us zeroing in on a set of thoughts that make us feel not so good about ourselves or not so good about our circumstances. Where thought flows, energy goes, right? So the more we think about those things that make us unhappy, the more likely it becomes for us to spiral into a state of depression. So here's the thought. Our single greatest weapon against thoughts of depression is our ability to choose one thought over the other. Now, that sounds like an oversimplification to a lot of people, but if depression is in fact linked to thoughts that we have, then if we have the ability to change our thoughts and put our thought energy somewhere else, then we have a lot more control over whether or not we're depressed than most people think. So, but to your point, Kevin, depression is critical, right? Mental health professionals, relationship, marriage counseling, these are things that can help us fight against that depression, because it is incredibly important for us to not remain in a state of depression. But people operate in these extremes. One of the comments in the group, in the Black Married Men's group, if y'all not a part, if you're married and you're a Black man, that Black Married Men's group is on point. So y'all reach out and see if you can join that group, man. That's a good place to be for the brothers. We have some good conversations in there. So shout out to the brothers who run the Black Married Men's group. Black Married Men Only is the name of the group. But we have this tendency to think that just because we're not feeling all lovey-dovey or feeling in love, that's the beginning of the end for our marriage, right? And I'm saying that there is a medium. It doesn't have to operate on these extremes, like either we're completely wiped out or we're completely thriving. No, there's middle ground, and there are ways to manipulate that environment. And I don't mean manipulate the spouse in an unhealthy way. I'm talking about manipulating and massaging the relationship between the two of us so that we can kind of keep it going, keep it lit, right? Let me jump into a couple more of these things, and I'm gonna read some more of these comments. I left off with 70% of prison inmates incarcerated on long-term sentences grew up in a broken home. Here's another one. There are links between divorce and a child's academic performance. So in other words, children of broken homes, divorced families, often suffer academically. It's a fact. Here's another one. This is the ugly one. Teenagers whose parents divorce are 300 times more likely to experience mental health issues. Children whose parents are divorced are 300 times more likely to experience mental health issues. That's a big deal, family. That's a big deal. We are already dealing with disproportionate levels of all kinds of social ills as it relates to Black people. We're already dealing with enormous amounts of adversity and disproportionate levels of societal ills that affect us. So would I stay together for the sake of my child if I think that they are 300 times more likely to experience mental health issues? Hell yeah. Because I can tough that out. I know that even if nothing else, I can come to an agreement with my wife that, hey, you know what? Let's at least just be friends. Let's just be cool. Let's be cordial, treat each other with respect, and let's get these children up to an age where they can fend for themselves in a healthy way so that they can go on and live a productive life. They don't have to know that all you have is a friendship. You can be respectful to each other. You don't have to fake it so much where you slobbing each other down in front of the children and fake kissing and fake hugging it. You don't have to do all that. Look, you go to work and fake it for your boss all the time. It's a lot of us that can't stand our boss. It's a lot of us that can't stand our coworker, but we get along because on the other side of not getting along is the loss of that paycheck. I would rather lose my paycheck than to lose my child to mental health issues, right? That's what I'm saying. Let me jump in here. Kevin says, especially if your spouse is a part of the mental health or the depression, right? Yeah, real rap. But again, there are things that we can do for that. We can get help for that. Yardley says, many times children are the last to know that their parents are divorcing because the parents are trying to protect their children. The children are left in the dark, although they usually already know, and try to wrap their mind around the current situation. They blame themselves, either one parent or the other, depending on who's doing the brainwashing, and lose faith around them. Now, look, that's a big deal. That's important because, again, this idea that something is bigger than ourselves, right? We fake it in our lives in many areas that we think are important enough. I can guarantee you right now, Like even you, Yardley, there are days where you don't feel like going to work. There are days where you probably want to slap the taste out your boss's mouth or one of your coworkers, but you're not going to do it. And you're going to fake it enough just so you can make it. And I'm saying right now we're talking about, we don't reckon what's wrong with our children, right? What's wrong with Black kids these days? This is a common question. And I'm giving you the outline of what's wrong with Black children, because these are the things. Look, if 80% of Black families or Black children belong to single parent households, then there's no wonder why we're experiencing hugely disproportionate amounts of mental health issues in our children. Look, Yardley said, in my opinion, depression is a silent emotional temper tantrum of adverse outcomes that a person wishes could have been different. Facts. Kevin Jackson says, facts. Yardley says, don't tell everyone. Pardon me, fam, let me wet my whistle. Look, man, this is a topic that we got to begin becoming more passionate about, because our children are our legacy, man. And they're, in my mind, it's maintaining myself. Self-preservation is law number one, right? First rule of nature, first law of nature, self-preservation. Part of self-preservation is the protection of our seed, of our lineage, of our legacy. That's our children. You're going to tell me that my child is 300% more likely to experience mental health issues, and I'm okay with that? Like, again, if self-preservation is the first law of nature, the second law has to be, or 1A has to be, the protection of my seed, the offspring that I brought forth. So I'm going to leave that one right there, and I'm going to jump to this last one, last but not least. Children are at a greater risk of living in poverty if their parents get a divorce. I'll repeat that. Children are at a greater risk of living in poverty if their parents get a divorce. Now, many of us think that we can avoid these things by just having a healthy conversation with our children, but I just told you that emotions are more powerful than logic. How do we know that that's true? We know that that's true because everybody that's watching me right now has done something or said something when they were upset, that after they calm down, they say, damn, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said that. Why in the hell would I do that? I wish I could take those words back. I wish I could do that over again. We've all been there, right? Emotions are more powerful than logic, and anger is the wind that blows out the lamp of the mind. Okay? These divorces, these breakups, tearing our families apart, this is tearing our children apart. And if you are not able to resonate with some of the things that I'm sharing with you, then maybe it's just that you don't care enough. Maybe it's just that your individual happiness is more important. Your personal gratification is more important, maybe, than your child, right? Maybe. Look, as it stands right now, personal gratification is most people's God. We talk about Jesus, we talk about Muhammad, we talk about all these different spiritually higher concepts. But the reality is most people are more committed to their own individual happiness than anything else. And, you know, I'm not going to get too preachy about that. But again, I think that that's a large part of the reason why we might say, well, what about me, before we, at the expense of our children. Let me see. Valerie says, God bless. Appreciate you, sis. Yardley says, we need Black men to do better with ourselves. Our women need to do better for themselves. These are facts. Look, I'm going to tell you something, man. We are on the battlefield, right? And many of us do not recognize that we are at war. We are experiencing warfare, okay? The primary reason, I probably shouldn't even say this on air, but I'm going to say it any damn way. The primary reason that I am a marriage counselor, a relationship coach, for individuals and for couples. The primary reason that I do that is because this is the cornerstone. Emotional health, mental health emotional well-being, relationship wellness between our men and our women and our children. This is the cornerstone for whether or not Black people will be able to thrive as a demographic or whether we will devolve, right? This is the single, in my mind, one of the single greatest contributing factors to whether or not the next generation will do better or worse than we do. And so this is why I do what I do. Look, I'm gonna leave it right there. Let me see. Yardley says we need to do better. I read that already. Let me see. I had a couple more points. I'm not gonna stay on here long. I didn't really mean to stay on much more than about a half hour. Let me check and see if there are any questions for me. Let me tell you something too, man. Hold on, let me see. Kevin says, if you've already been staying for the kids and it's still not working, how long are you supposed to fake it? Kids will eventually know what's real. This is when counseling becomes important. This is when, look, let me ask you a question, Kevin. Have you tried to get any professional help for the situation? And then you have to also take into account the overall environment. Is the environment so toxic that it's posing a physical threat and an emotional threat to the children? These are questions that you don't have to answer right here, but these are things that you need to consider. And again, reach out to a professional, a marriage counseling professional. If you don't already have one, feel free to reach out to me. This is what I do. I love doing this. So, but first and foremost, get help. But to answer your question, how long, I think you said, how long are you supposed to fake it? Look, I say children reach the age of reason at about 12. That's where they begin to, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's right around 10, 12 years old, where they begin to be able to kind of reason with things in a healthier way. But I can promise you there are ways that I was thinking at age 18. Let me go back a little bit because I think 18 might be a bit far, but I would say that there are ways that I was processing thought at age 16 and even 17. Hell, I'll even include 18. That once I became 28, I was like, damn, I can't believe that I used to think like that. And once I became 38, I couldn't believe some of the thoughts that I held when I was 28. So long short of it is, I would say at least get them out of high school. I would say get them out of high school. Look, my man OG Troy said, people will do a jail sentence for 18 years and you can't do a sentence for your children. Even if you want to consider it a sentence, I would go through a lot for the preservation of the mental well-being of my child. And so if that means that me and my wife have to just be on, I call it a platonic marriage. Even if we had to have a platonic marriage and she had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend, but we could at least maintain a semblance of cordial and mutual respect in the home so that the child doesn't realize any toxicity, any anger or we're not violent, we're not cussing each other out. If we can at least be cool, I think it's worth it, even if that means I got to have, or she has to have, we have to have outside relationships. I would do that for the well-being of my child. And then once they get to be 18, even as close to 18 as you can get them, maybe you have that conversation then, but they've been shielded enough. They've developed enough. Like the mind doesn't fully develop the brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25 years old on average. So the average 16-year-old is going to be impacted hard enough by the tearing apart of their parents that maybe they don't do so well. So I hope that answers the question. Let me see. Mamaku Sai. Did I have any other notes here? Let me see. Here's another thought. And this one was a stinger for me. I had a client a little while ago, and he was contemplating leaving his wife and his daughters. But he was concerned about his daughters. He's like, man, I don't want to leave because I need to be there to kind of protect them. But me and her, we don't get along so great. But if I leave, then I'm not in the house and I don't know what kind of mother she'll be once I'm gone. And then I threw him another one. I said, well, you know that your wife is a very attractive lady. He said, yeah. I said, okay, well, how long do you expect her to stay single? How long do you expect your woman to stay single and she has your children? Well, consider this now. This is the creepy part, but I gotta say it. There are men out here who, of course, they're attracted to your lady, but they're also attracted to your children. So if you are that concerned about your children's well-being, the best person to leave in charge of them is you. Because once you leave them in the care of another man, look, y'all know I tell y'all this every week. I get my deepest insights, my most profound wisdom from Animal Planet when it comes to relationships. And when the lions come to take over another pride, when the male lion comes in to take over another pride, one of the first things he does is he kills the offspring. Life ain't fair, but that's what it is. So I'm not saying that the next man may come in, or even the woman may come in and necessarily physically kill your child, but statistically, step parents and children have a hard time gelling in many cases, right? I had a hard time with my stepfather. I couldn't leave fast enough. He was probably the main reason, or at least one of the main reasons, that I joined the military. I couldn't get out of it fast enough. And right before I left, we almost threw blows. Just saying, this is a common phenomenon. Step parents, step mothers, and stepfathers, oftentimes they come into the equation and they will wreak havoc on the life of stepchildren. So I'm saying all that to say, best place for them to be is under your care as their parent, rather than rolling the dice and hoping that things go well in the care of some other man or woman that might come in and not care nearly as much about their well-being as you do. Let me see. Yardley says, if you stay for the children, would you not teach your children that it's okay to lie to their loved ones? Okay, this is a good question right here. And would they take on the blame that it is their fault for their parents' unhappiness? Once you get your child to the age where they can rationalize in a healthier way, because you can't really process at 12 years old, at 14, 15 years old, children have a much harder time thinking about that kind of stuff and rationalizing these kinds of things in a healthy way. So I'm saying, to the best of your ability, they shouldn't even know that you have problems. And then once they do realize that you've reached a point of no return where the relationship is over, you can just say, hey, mommy and daddy decided to call it quits. But they're grown now. And they know that sometimes relationships fail and you can move on. But the primary objective is to safely usher them to adulthood. So your children shouldn't realize that you and your significant other can't at least be friends. Like, I mean, come on, you're telling me that you thought enough of this person to create a child with them, but so little of the child that you've produced that you can't even protect their well-being? You don't have the fortitude to tough that out for them? Come on, man, I think we can do better than that. I'm challenging us. I think we can do better than that. Let me see. Any more comments, questions? Let me see. Let me say. I don't see nothing else. Let me check YouTube. YouTube, any comments for your boy? Let me see. All right. Everybody just watching, no comments. Cool. Cool. So, I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I think that, I mean, man, just that one stat about children being 300 times more likely to experience mental health issues. Man, let me see. Yardley says, that leads to the point of proper vetting of the man or woman you intend to have kids with. Look, man, so many of us, we spend more time picking out our outfit that we're going to wear to the club than we do deciding who we're going to create a child with. We be meeting people at the club, and if they find enough, we in the car or in a hotel and we smash them. And so a lot of times children are born out of that. And, that's reckless. And we're not going to be able to stop all of that. But I think as we begin promoting this type of conversation and look, check this out. What types of influences as a father in the home, I can better guide the types of influences that my children experience. We talk about being present, and as a separated parent or divorced parent, maybe I get the children on the weekends, maybe I could even see them every day, but there are things that are taking place in that child's life. I don't see them when they come home from school necessarily. And so the expression that they might have had on their face because something horrible might have happened at school. So I might call, right? Because I'm living on the other side of town. I might call and say, hey, little man, hey, little lady, how was your day? It was okay, Dad. Right? So I get the filtered version of what happens, what they experience during that day. Whereas if I was home with them, I can see it on their face. And I can say, hey, what's the problem? And I'm more likely to be able to prompt a conversation in that way than over the phone when I can't see their facial expressions. And I'm saying, look, we will create all kinds of narratives to justify fulfilling our own individual happiness because, look, our personal pleasure is our God for so many of us. But I'm saying, God damn it, something has to be bigger than us, right? And if the well-being of your child is not bigger than you ain't trying hard enough. Get some help. Get some help. That's what I'm here for. There's many people out here that can help us through many of these challenges that we're going through. 300 times more likely to experience mental health issues. Man, if that ain't enough, If you can't respect that, your whole perspective is whack. One of the rappers used to say that. Let me see. Fuzz Lights Diller says, hey, you are so right. As my dad would say, be careful who you give your DNA to. I will never forget that conversation. My parents divorced after 45 years and my dad married the side chick. Wow. Look, my mother left my father for a good reason, right? My mother left my father for a good reason. I'll repeat it for those who came in late. My father had some unhealthy company around us, my mother, my brother, and me. And some of that company ended up killing my father right before my 12th birthday. My father was murdered right before my 12th birthday. This was the type of company that was around. So my mother would be bringing us home sometime from wherever we were coming from. And all these cats would be in our living room. House would be lit, smelling like weed. They got drink. And it's some questionable characters in the crib. And eventually mom was like, we got to go. Even with that, right? Jay-Z had this lyric where he said, now the teachers couldn't reach me and my mama couldn't beat me hard enough to match the pain of my pops not seeing me. I felt that, man. I was so torn up by not having my father in my life that at a very young age, I knew that whatever woman I got pregnant, I was going to work my ass off to make sure that I was able to maintain a relationship with her so that hopefully we were able to get married and I could keep my children in my home and protect them from what I experienced, because that's painful, man. For me, that was painful as hell growing up without my pops. And so thankfully, me and my wife were able to survive, a lot of my emotional immaturity, a lot of my, knuckleheadedness as a young man. And so now we've been married for 31 years, but, we went through a lot. And I'm saying all that to say that a large part of what prompted me to make that decision was the pain that I felt. So not only am I giving you statistics, but I'm telling you firsthand from what I felt, it's not a good feeling growing up without one of your parents, particularly in my case, your father. Let me see. Kevin says a 6-year-old knows when things aren't right, especially when they have heard and seen toxic situations. Fix it. Get counseling, get help to the best of your ability. You got to fight. You got to fight, man. And I'm not trying to preach to you. I know that every Every fight can't necessarily be won. Some fights are losing battles. But I'm saying exhaust all your possibilities. I have had clients, listen to me good now. This is a shameless plug. I'm gonna plug myself. I have had clients who have come to me after having been with 2 and 3 other marriage counselors, and they come to me and say, damn, this is the best counseling I have ever had. So I'm saying, if you haven't tried me, then you haven't tried your best. I'm gonna put myself out there, and I say that I'm one of the best there is, and I ain't ashamed to say it. I'm one of the best there is. So this is what I do. Fuzzy Light says, children know when things are not right. As adults, we tend to underestimate children. Children know when things are not right. These are facts. Look, man, even if your child knows, let me hammer it with this. Even if your child knows, or your children know, that things aren't necessarily so great between you and the mother, they still get afforded the protection of you being in the home and them not being exposed to other mates that your significant other might bring around them. To me, look, as a man, we talk about purpose, right? All this talk about purpose. What's a man's purpose? What is he here for? One of the primary purposes that we are here for is legacy. We are sowing seed. Look, that is the primary reason for the sex drive that we have. We think it ain't just about the nut, it's about the fruit. The nut is good, but the fruit that the nut produces, your children, that is the primary reason for the sexual urge. And then instinct kicks in and says, now I got to preserve that fruit and prevent that fruit from getting the bruises that life has awaiting it, right? So I'm going to do my best to preserve my child, to keep them from as many bruises as I can possibly prevent, right? And the best place for me to do that is in the home with them. Once I open them up and my lady gets another guy, who is this cat? Is he motivated, as motivated as I am, to protect my seed? I just told you that the primary instinct for a male is his own seed. And that male lions, when they come into the equation, the first thing they do is kill. They kill the offspring. And I'm saying that it is a natural instinct for there to be some sort of, let me say it this way, let me say that different. It is not natural for a step parent to come in and nurture somebody else's child. Now, we have some exceptional people out here, and some people do very well. Some people come in and be like, hey, you know what? Yours is mine, mine is yours, and I'm going to do my best by your child. But there's a lot of horror stories out here, and we've all heard some. There are some children out here who have been treated horribly by step parents. Just saying. So in my mind, my child is worth that. So I'm gonna do my level best to preserve that. Let me see where we at. Fuzz Dillard says, children know when things are not right. Yes, indeed. We read that. I used to be a therapist. A lot of children are angry due to parents not talking and projecting their issues onto children. These are facts. So many of us, man, we need help. We need professional help. And many, it's taboo for a lot of us. And many of us are not comfortable admitting that we need that help. And we got to change that, man. We got to change that. We got to start getting help in these areas, in our relationships. And Kevin says, I did. You did what, brother? You did what? And Fuzzy says, I know, I experienced it. Yeah. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I'm fighting like hell for the babies, because if children are our future, right? They've been making songs about that. Whitney Houston made a song about it. Big Daddy Kane made a song about it. Children are the future. If children are our future, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do, because a lot of our children, we talk about that stat I read, 300%, 300 times more likely to suffer from emotional and mental health issues. If you take a look at what our children are experiencing these days, man, it's a great number of them who are struggling to to emote in a healthy way. And see, Kevin says, came in and took care of a stepchild. My man, see? And I would do that. I would do that. I would absolutely take care of it. Me and my wife have talked about adopting, but now we have 5 grandchildren. So, you know, there's we got a lot, we got our hands full, and we got dogs. And so it's a lot. We got a lot going on too. But I know that I have the capacity to. I know my wife has the capacity to love stepchildren. Kevin, you have the capacity to love and care for a stepchild. That's not my point. My point is there are an awful lot of people out here who don't. Yet they will come in under the guise of, yeah, I'll do it. Meanwhile, they don't give a damn about your child, the stepchild. Not only that, they have eyes for your significant other, your ex, but they also have sexual fantasies about the child. You got men out here and women out here who are molesting boys and girls, right? At an astronomical rate. Children are being sexually abused. They say that at least 50% of all Black girls have been experienced some level of sexual abuse by the time they're 18 years old. At least 50%. And I would submit to you that there's probably more who just aren't saying anything. And I'll go so far as to say a lot of boys, a lot of male children are experiencing or have experienced this, but it's been taboo to talk about it. So it goes hush. But there are a lot of children out here who are experiencing very high levels of sexual abuse. And I'm saying again, best way to prevent that is to be there. That's what I'm saying. Look, Black people are beautiful. We produce some beautiful babies. But it does us no good to be Black and beautiful if we are not also Black and powerful. And the best way for us to be Black and powerful is through the traditional family unit. There is no substitute for that. Inspired by Dr. John Henry Clark. Shout out to Dr. John Henry Clark. Rest in peace. That's all I got for y'all, family. I think, I don't know, I hope I made my point. I hope I've impacted someone's ideas about this. Again, I encourage all of us to get some level of professional help, relationship counseling, personal relationship. I'm talking about just on an individual level. I do one-on-one coaching. I do relationship coaching. This is what I'm passionate about. I love Black people. You understand what I'm saying? And this is largely what motivates me to do what I do, because I love us so much. So if there's anything that I can do to make your life better in any way, man, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. You can email me at info@theconditionsoflove.com. That's info@theconditionsoflove.com. Let me put that in the chat right here. Info. Let me put that in right here. Info@theconditionsoflove.com. There you go. Let me see. I have a relationship book. I wrote a marriage book. Me and my wife together wrote the Heart Work book, 31 Days to Mastering Your Relationship. Right? I'm not ashamed to plug my own book, 31 Days to Mastering Your Relationship, the Heart Work book. Some gems in there. We changing lives, man, because that's what it's about. It's what we got to do, man. We got to make life better, not only for ourselves, but for each other. That book can be gotten on my website. Again, reach out to me, email me. You can also contact me right here on Facebook. Don't hesitate to inbox me. My Love Alchemist page, my personal page, Vaughn Says. And that's all I got. Let me see. Brother Kevin says, I appreciate you for throwing this together fairly quickly. Let me know when you come to Knoxville. If I'm off, I would like to sit down and chop it up with you, my man. That's what it is. Say no more, fam. Troy Knowles, my man. Good stuff. I appreciate you, brother. Keenan, I respect your views. I appreciate that. Yarlee, I appreciate I understand your point. See you Sunday. Look, the His and Her Perspective show every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Me and my co-host, Coach Michelle Monet. We get it in every Sunday. Sometimes we argue a little bit, but it's all in love. It's all in good fun. But we have the same mission, and that is to refortify the cornerstone of the Black community, and that is the Black traditional family. That's it, family. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and for that, I'm eternally thankful. I love y'all. Peace.